Velkommen til Markedsføringspodden med Even og Eivind. Podcasten for deg som vil lære mer om salg og markedsføring.
Hver uke leverer vi deg våre beste tips som du kan ta i bruk i din bedrift for å øke synlighet og salget.
Hei og velkommen tilbake til Markedsføringspodden. I dag har vi en veldig spennende prat til dere. Vi har besøk av en som har vært gjest her før, og faktisk sist gang jeg tror vi hadde en episode i nærheten av en time, var den gangen han var her da også. Det Steven Macdonald. Han var her faktisk i episode 8, tror jeg det var. Og den gangen snakket han om hvordan de hadde jobbet i SuperOffice for å lage den veldig, veldig populære bloggen deres, og ikke minst hva den hadde bidratt med økonomisk. Siden den gang så har bloggen generert millioner av nye visninger, men det ikke det han her for å snakke om nå. Etter vi hadde besøk av Steven for, det vel rundt 4 år siden faktisk, så forsvant han litt for meg. Så han ikke på ganske lenge før for rundt 2,5 år siden, hvor han plutselig dukket opp hver eneste dag, følte jeg, på LinkedIn. Han ble veldig, veldig synlig der, og jeg synes det var spennende, la litt merke til det, og så tenkte jeg ikke så mye over det før et år etterpå. I mellomtiden hadde vi blitt kollegaer. Han har begynt å jobbe som Head of Content i INEVO, som byrået jeg også jobber i, og vi skulle ha vår interne konferanse. Vi har det en gang i året, hvor alle ansatte presenterer noe de har jobbet med det siste året, eller et tema de synes spennende, og Steven delte erfaringer fra LinkedIn-prosjektet sitt, og temaet da var jo hvordan han hadde fått 1 million visninger på LinkedIn på et år, og hvor mye penger eller forespørsler det hadde generert for han for mulig innkommende forretning. Så det jeg tenkte måtte være interessant var jo å få han inn i podcasten, snakke litt om det. Og ikke minst, han har akkurat kjørt et nytt eksperiment med mine kollegaer her i INEVO, hvor han har tatt sin formel, replikert den og delt den ut til de ansatte. Og vi har kjørt et prosjekt over 10 uker. Så hvis du spent på resultatene fra det prosjektet, så burde du bare høre videre på podcasten. Og med det så setter jeg over til denne ukens episode med Steven.
Welcome back, Steven.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
You were here in January of 2019. I think it was something like the 8th or 9th episode of Markedsføringspodden. So you were like our oldest guest. So it's good to have you back.
Thank you.
Since then we have become colleagues, which is super fun. But after we did the podcast where you talked about how you work with the SuperOffice and creating a blog which generated millions of views every year, you kind of like disappeared from me. I didn't see you for a while, and then during COVID I was checking LinkedIn a lot, like a lot of other people, and then all of a sudden you were all over my feed. So what happened?
So really interesting. To go back to January 2019, I had been blogging a lot, and I love writing. It's my creative outlet. But come pandemic, I had become tired of writing blog posts. I've been doing it for 10 years, but I still had that need to write. So I thought, okay, it was April 2020, the world had just shut down. How do I still write, but not write blog posts? And I originally started an email list. And the only thing I'd changed from my LinkedIn profile at that stage was just a link that said, sign up to get weekly emails from me. So it started off this whole program of being active on LinkedIn as an email list. And the plan was to write for a subscriber list once a week, send an email. But I quickly realized that I could post that content on LinkedIn. Over time, I realized that I couldn't just copy and paste the content, and I had to shift it to a specific strategy. And anyone knows if you've tried to repurpose content from one platform to another, it's not as simple as copy and pasting. But when I started in April 2020, I was sending an email and I was posting on LinkedIn with the goal that my LinkedIn content would drive people to my newsletter. And it worked to a degree. I got to 500 signups over the course of 6 months, but my following grew by thousands on LinkedIn, and my content was seen by tens of thousands of people. And I quickly realized that's where I need to spend my time.
Yeah.
The email was great, and it was generating signups and it was generating some business. But LinkedIn was a completely different game.
Yeah. Do you have like a specific moment where you realized that this is different from what you've done before, or was it more like a process over several months or weeks?
So I'd say, looking back now, you can see there was a moment after 6 months or so when it just clicked. Like a lot more people who'd been following my content were then starting to reach out to me. But there was a moment very early on. I think it was probably, I was posting twice a week back then, Mondays and Wednesdays. I would probably say after 6 weeks or so, I did a post which was basically, it was around pop-ups on websites. And I talked about how I'd used the pop-up to generate tens of thousands of subscribers. And at the end, I said, if you want the template for the pop-up, comment yes below. Very specific. And that post was my first real, not viral post, but it's my best performing post at the time. I think it did 25,000 views. What I realized was during when I was getting messages for, yes, please send me the template, CEOs and managing directors of businesses were asking for the template.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect that at all. I thought junior marketers would be the ones who'd take the template, and they did for sure. But that was my first moment when I realized, wow, okay, so I can reach decision makers through my content now.
Yeah, and that's really cool, and a realization I think a lot of people don't necessarily have gotten to yet, because you imagine like the people reading my stuff is often people interested in super tactical stuff,
right.
Who has a boss they need to deliver new ideas to, but quite often it's actually that boss who is on LinkedIn reading stuff and promoting that to their team again.
Yeah, and I had a call 2 weeks ago, and this is how it plays out a lot of the time. I said, how did you hear about me? And she said, oh, my CEO read your read your LinkedIn post and shared it with me and said, you should follow up with this guy. The CEO, I've never interacted with. We're not connected on LinkedIn. He's never liked my content, but still the influence was there.
Yeah, and that's really interesting, and also like very in the times with, especially like I feel a lot of the content and inbound people have started to talk more about demand generation, and a lot of the aspects that maybe like brand marketers would say that this is what we have been talking about all along, but
right.
Consistently reaching a lot of people and making an impression really works.
Yes, for sure. And so that was my first aha moment. 6 months later, that's when I started really seeing demand for my services increase. And when I first published my content, and this is just to explain the slow burn behind doing it, it's not like you publish one post and you go viral. Everyone who's ever posted on LinkedIn knows that when you post and you don't see the numbers you hope for, it's very easy to give up. If you put in the work, be consistent, it'll pay off. So my first post in end of April, beginning of May 2020, did about 1,600 views. 12 months later, my posts were averaging 100,000 views.
Yeah.
And if I look at the course of
massive.
a huge difference. Now, over the course, when you average out between 12 months of posting and 100 posts in total, I think then it was around 10,000 views on average for that year. But when you invest in a platform like that, after 12 months, I started seeing fatigue from my point of view in terms of coming up with the content. That was becoming more challenging, and audience fatigue too. I could see that the people who were reacting to my content prior or in the beginning had moved on.
Yeah.
If you see the same person week in, week out, twice a week, you end up just scrolling past them after a few months. Everyone goes through that. So I thought, okay, you know what? I'll take a break. It's coming up to the summer. It was a nice way to wrap it up. 1 million views from 100 posts and 1 year. I'll take a 2 to 3 month break.
Yeah. Because I remember we had this internal conference, which we have at INEVO every year, where everyone presents something they have been doing. And there was a lot of really impressive presentation. But you had one like blew me out of the water with like 1 year, 100 posts and 1 million views. Because it was truly like something different. And I remember thinking back then that, okay, but this is you. You have always been this great writer. This is unique. Like if you put LeBron James on any basket team, he will perform, or any writing tasks, Steven will perform. But then we did, or you challenged a lot of people at INEVO to do an experiment.
Yeah.
Can't you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. So I took a break for originally 2 to 3 months. It turned into 1.5 years, right? And in that time, it allowed me to kind of process what worked well and where I could improve. And it's funny now that enough time has passed, I look back at that first year. And even though to a lot of people, it appears successful, and I know getting those numbers is not common, but there was so much I did wrong and so many pieces I look back at and cringe and thought, oh my goodness, I wrote that. Anyway, I was able to just create a process that I thought, okay, if I was to do this again, here's how I would approach it. But it was less motivating for me to just start up again and try and hit lots of views. Like going from 0 to 1 million views is a great achievement, but going from 1 million to like 5 million, there was less drive behind it. So I thought, okay, I will put out a call to the team at INEVO and say, I'm going to start this up again. I want people to commit to joining a weekly meeting and posting once a week. And we'll go through a very specific 5-step framework, and I'll talk more in detail about it in a minute. So I was hoping that a lot of people, would respond. I didn't expect people to respond so quickly. Straight away, it was like, yes, let me join. How do I, attend? How can I be part of this group? In fact, I specifically created like a limit on how many people would join, because I didn't want it to be everyone join and it becoming quite manic and chaotic. I thought a small exclusive group would help, because this process, even though I'd refined it, I hadn't experimented with it live. So I wanted to create it, share it with a small group of people that we could then all be held accountable and just go through it and just sort of, again, tweak as we go along. But it needed to be a small enough group that we could do that. So we ended up with 10 people, right? Now this is end of August last year, right? And just to clarify too, in between when I stopped posting in May 2021 to October 2022, I didn't engage on LinkedIn at all, in terms of I didn't like a post, I didn't comment, I didn't post anything myself. I was silent.
Yeah. So for your LinkedIn followers, you could have been dead.
Right. In fact, and I am not kidding, at least 2 people reached out to me and said, hey, Steven, everything okay?
Yeah.
At that point, I had 8,000 followers and only 2 people asked about my whereabouts. So yeah, I was just non-existent, right? And then we went through this 5-step framework every week. And I'll explain it in more detail in a minute, to the point where we were ready to start posting content. Okay. And then when I posted that first piece after being away for 1.5 years, the post did 175,000 views.
Wow.
My best performing post ever at the time, even though I'd take a break for 1.5 years.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and probably says something about the LinkedIn algorithm as well. Like a lot of people probably expect to see something from him, or will be happy to interact with something from him again. Right.
Well, there's that part, but I don't believe that you have to become a prisoner of a platform in order to be successful. I just don't think that's mentally, or for mental health wise, the right thing to think. You have to show up every day, because eventually your audience gets tired of you. That's one thing. The impressions and reach decreases perhaps as they get tired of you, and then you start expecting more and you get less. And what this proved to me was you can take a step back from LinkedIn specifically for as long as you want and come back. But if your content is thought out and strong, it can still do just as well.
Yeah.
So what I found was that, but not only that, over the course of the next 10 weeks, when the team of 10, we were able to hit 1 million views as a group, it told me that the process works, because some people who posted 2 to 3 times a year were now generating thousands of impressions per post.
Yeah.
Not just that, but someone who posted once in the last 12 months, within 5 posts, generated 1 new lead and was able to close that to a new deal. Now, I just want to mention just some sales numbers as well, because I think this is really interesting. So when I did this process myself, within 1 year, May 2020 to May 2021, I probably generated close to 2 million NOK in revenue.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's impressive.
Yeah. I can't scale, right? It's just one of me. But I knew there was an opportunity. If there's a group of us, we can. And as we've been going through this group now, I'd say the pipeline for the 10 of us is probably close to that as well, 2 million NOK.
Yeah.
But this is in 10 weeks, not 1 year.
Yeah. So maybe we could almost say like 1 million views on LinkedIn is worth about 2 million NOK.
Maybe. Yeah, that's a nice way to quantify it.
Yeah, but that's really interesting, and I think it's really cool as well that you run the numbers and like have a business case for it as well, because there's like a lot of LinkedIn gurus and different courses you can do on how to hack the LinkedIn algorithm and get views right this way and that way. But at least what I personally feel is missing a lot of the time is, okay, but how does this actually turn into like business results constantly? How does it help generate a pipeline? How do we like measure any type of like brand effects from this? Yeah, I think it's really cool that you actually pay attention to those details as well.
Yeah, it's very different. When I was, running my own business, I wanted to spend my time doing activities that generated business in return, right?
Yeah.
So it was very easy for me to just default on that. Okay, is it worth the effort? And it's also the reason why I stopped sending emails to my newsletter list.
Yeah.
Because it was a lot smaller in terms of value, in monetary value. So yeah, for sure. When I set this up within the team at INEVO, that was one of the goals I was looking at too. How much business can we, generate from this? And in such a short amount of time, it's performed extremely well. And not just for me, right? It's easy if it was just me generating the views and the deals because I have history in that. But this is people now who hardly post at all. Within 10 weeks are able to generate new leads and business. Really, really exceptional work. And I think I'm going to go now, just if you don't mind, through this process.
Yeah. But one thing I just want to add in before we do that is I've been trying to post on LinkedIn several times. We have talked about it a lot.
Right.
And I didn't actually reach out in time to be part of the group this time. But one thing I think have been super impressive as well, besides like the hard results that the project has, is how many of those 10 people who have managed to stay consistent.
Right.
Because I think a lot of businesses start projects like this, and in this first 5 weeks, it's easy. You have 5 to 10 things to write about on the top of your head. But actually seeing so many people being able to like go through it, and also so many like sticking with it after the 10 weeks as well.
Yeah.
That's almost as impressive to me as the business results.
Right. And the difference, I would say the key difference between when you were doing it on your own and what many people do on their own versus what we've done differently is each week we update a report to say what we posted and how it performed. And we have a weekly check-in meeting too, where we explain what we learned this week. That way of being held accountable and being coached and talking through these things, I think is one of the key ingredients to why it's performed so well and why people remain consistent, because they know if they show up to that meeting and they haven't posted, I'll call them out and say, why haven't you posted this week? And I think a lot of people, as you just said, they'll start and they'll be excited and motivated. And because they're not being held accountable, it fizzles out. Yeah. It just fizzles out. And that's been really inspiring as well for me to have people come on each week and continue to share and perform well. Yeah,
that's been really cool. But okay, that was a small detour. Let's get into your 5-step framework. Okay. I imagine that will be the most like interesting thing for the most people listening to this.
Sure. Okay. So, and I think part of what we just said now actually lends nicely to the first part of this, which is having a goal.
Yeah.
Right. I think a lot of people post because the advice is quote unquote just publish.
Yeah.
Right. But we wanted to start with a goal. So I'll share how we did things in INEVO, just so you can have a real example. So we wanted to be known as the best experts in our field in Norway. Okay, that was the driving force. If we are known as experts, it means we get to work with dream clients. We get to speak and attend podcasts and speak at events. And of course, there's a lot of benefits behind being known as the go-to person in that field. So that was the first step, have a goal. And I basically, each week, each of these 5 that I go through was split up basically where you had a task and you had to spend 1 week going through, looking at your goal, documenting it in this weekly report that I talked about earlier. So there was a place where we could return back to later on as well, So we know, okay, if this person wants to be known as the best person in SEO, then their content should pretty much be around that topic and not deviate too much into other areas. Otherwise, they'll be spread quite thin. And just tying that back to what I said earlier, when I look back at the first year I posted, I thought I only posted about content and SEO. But when I read through some of my posts, I was talking about the LinkedIn algorithm, email marketing, for content and SEO for sure, then e-commerce, then B2B. And I realized, wow, I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
Like if someone follows me, they don't really know what's coming next.
Yeah.
There was a lack of consistency in the topics. So that's one of the things I learned too. But okay, step 1, have a goal and document that down. We also baselined all of the numbers as well. So then we could then see the impact over the months, over the weeks and months. So have a goal. Second is figure out what you're good at. Okay. So understand, where do you have experience? Where can you demonstrate results? One of my favorite ways of getting an answer to this question is asking someone, if you were to present a workshop on a topic tomorrow with no preparation, what would that topic be?
Yeah.
And whatever comes to your mind or your gut straight away, that's typically what you'll end up posting about. So that's your topic, or as I call it, finding your X. Okay, so you've got the X. So now you have a goal and you know what you're good at. Then it's understanding who you're trying to sell to. Okay, so it's understanding your ideal customers, because you want to find people who buy the X or the skill that you're good at and connect with them and engage with them.
Yeah.
Right. If your audience is only from family members and ex-colleagues on LinkedIn, they'll never buy from you.
Yeah.
Right. You need to start then finding and connecting with people that will buy from you. So that's step 3. So just to recap, have a goal, figure out what you're good at, connect with people that will buy from you. The 4th, and this is definitely overlooked, is contributing and engaging with their content, your ideal customer's content. Okay. Many reasons behind this. One is, if you can engage with their content, you'll be on their radar more often. Okay. As a creator myself, when someone comments on my post, I love it because that helps increase reach.
Yeah.
So if you can comment on your buyer's content, you'll be top of mind and they'll appreciate it too because they know you're helping them get more views. Right. So it's win-win. You get on their radar, they get a better reach.
Yeah. And I would imagine like other people seeing you too. I often find like interesting people to follow on LinkedIn because someone has commented something really smart on the post from someone I'm following.
Yeah.
And then so, this Steven guy, he's interesting. So maybe I should check him out too.
Check his profile out, and learn more. Exactly. So there's that. And I would probably say that commenting on other people's content is 80% of this strategy. It's not about creating new, because if you post once a day or once a week, that's still only one of your 5 days. The rest of the time should be engaging with other people's content. LinkedIn is a rewards platform. The more active you are on it, the more you engage with other people's content, the better it is for when you post your own content.
Right.
Right. So it is self-serving as well.
Yeah. And it's social media, so being social is important.
Right.
Yeah, it's not the broadcasting media necessarily.
Right. And one thing as well, whenever I bring this up, you have to comment on other people's posts. The default is, okay, I'll just add, I agree, good post, nice work. And it's not that at all.
Yeah.
It's about how can you add value to their content, right? So it's things like sharing your own point of view, sharing trends that you've read to support what the creator is sharing. If you have a point of view which is the opposite of what they're sharing, in a respectful way, you can use counter arguments. So I think there's many ways to do that, but definitely not just good job, I like it, keep up. That's not going to get on anyone's radar. In fact, something I've been doing lately too is when people comment on my posts and they use those kind of terms, good job, I like it, thank you, I don't engage with those comments. I typically engage with the comments where people add lengthy responses or ask questions.
Yeah.
So to flip that around, if I'm going to leave a comment on a buyer's post, I'll do the same. Ask a question. Hey, what did you think about this? Oh, I read this. What do you think about that? Try and start a discussion with them.
Yeah. Because this is one thing I've noticed when I'm on LinkedIn. It seems like there's like groups of people just posting I agree on each other's content all the time.
Pods.
Yeah, some kind of engagement pod, yeah. And it's, at least to me, feels super superficial.
Right.
And at least it might be nice for like the person getting the comment to see that you agree with them, but it does add very little like value to like the network, and I would imagine LinkedIn as well sees that comment as not super valuable.
Right.
That it's a basic comment.
Now there's tools being built through AI that will leave comments for you.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure a lot of them will be built around the I agree, good post type,
for
as
sure.
opposed to more kind of thought behind it. The goal of commenting isn't to add as many comments as you can throughout the week. It's about how many buyers can you start a conversation with.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
That's step 4.
That's step 4, yeah.
And now...
I lost count already.
Yeah, exactly. But now it's time to publish your own content too.
Yeah.
And there's a few types of content. I like to go with the kind of the educational format, giving people tactical advice. And again, in the beginning, I thought it would be, I give tactical advice on content and SEO, and I would get a lot of junior type people engaging my content. And it turns out from all different roles, all different spaces, you name it. Like I post about B2B SEO content, and yet I get companies reaching out to me about e-commerce websites or about real estate development.
Yeah.
It's like all over the place, but still decision makers are reading it and connecting with me. But it comes back to, we'll go back to publishing our content. So a few things come to mind. One is I've heard firsthand now, when it comes to publishing content, one of the best tips I can share is batch your content when you create it. Okay. The worst thing anyone can do is just go to LinkedIn, click, new post, and try and write their best piece they've ever written.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, no matter how good you are. You need to really think about, okay, what am I going to talk about? And then self-edit it, and then create 3, 4, 5 posts in one go.
Yeah.
And then spread them out over the next few weeks, as opposed to just trying to do it on the same day. My personal approach is I create content on Thursdays and publish on Mondays.
Yeah.
So it gives me the weekend to let it digest, think what can I do different, and then it's ready. Another thing is I try to share case studies with kind of like, I always try to include analytics screenshots as well. It's almost like showing a behind the scenes.
Yeah.
That not many people can get access to seeing that kind of data. But breaking it down into a really easy to digest format. There are a bunch of hacks you can do. You can use carousels to get more views. You can create short sentences and space them out. All these things exist on the web and you can find them. But ultimately, really focusing on the first 2 lines, the hook, is probably the most important part of any LinkedIn post.
Yeah.
I actually say to the team, when it comes to creating your own content, spend 50% of the time on the hook. Because if no one clicks see more, they will not engage with the rest of your post, and therefore you may as well not have anything there.
Yeah, it's almost like the subject line in an email as well.
Correct.
if no one opens the email, it doesn't matter how perfect like the content in the email is.
Yeah. And how many people literally spend more than 10 minutes on the subject line? Not many.
Yeah.
Even though everyone knows you should.
Yeah. You should spend like twice the amount of time as the rest of the content. But I agree, it's almost like this last minute thing.
Yes.
Oh, we need a subject line.
Yeah. It's the same with headlines in blog posts. People spend so little time on it. Same with the first 2 lines on a LinkedIn post. So many people just think, okay, I'll just add whatever and hope that they click see more and read the rest where the real gold is.
Yeah.
But most people don't find that gold.
Yeah, that's a very good point. But for people listening to this, I think that most people find it very interesting, but thinking this also sound quite time consuming. I'm usually just opening and writing whatever I have in my heart right there and then. So how much time does something like this take?
1 hour a week.
Okay, that's controversial. I think.
Really.
Yeah.
I would say this though. In the beginning, sure, it'll take a bit longer.
Yeah.
Because you need to develop routines and habits. But having a goal is about 5 minutes work.
Yeah.
Right?
And you hopefully do it once.
Yeah.
Every few years.
Exactly. So that part's done. Great. Figuring out what you're good at. Again, it's a 10, 12-minute exercise asking yourself some key questions. What do I have experience with? What can I demonstrate results with? If I was to teach a workshop, what would that topic be? Great. Identifying who you want to sell to. This is where it starts now taking a bit more time.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people think, oh, I want to sell to these big companies, but they don't have a history of selling to the Fortune 500. Right? They have a history of selling to like their neighbor.
Yeah.
Who needs help with a graphic, right? So it's like looking at who do you have a good record selling your business to, and who do you want to sell in the future? And there might be a difference there, right? You might want to move up market, but you need to build towards that. But then it's about finding those people on LinkedIn, okay? And you can just simply enter job titles in LinkedIn search, filter by country and by industry, and then all of a sudden it'll give you a list of people you can connect with. Connect with those. And if they start posting content, engaging with it. I don't spend more than 10, 15 minutes a day leaving comments, right? Most of the time it's less, just because unfortunately there's a lot of garbage content on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I often find myself scrolling for 2 minutes and realizing I didn't have a single opportunity to leave one good comment. That's okay. Come back again later. Creating your own content for sure takes the most time, but that's why you should batch your content. If you spend 2 hours on Monday creating 4 pieces, that's 30 minutes each.
Yeah.
And you only post once a week, the next time you do that is in a month's time.
Yeah.
Right? So you can easily break it down into something that's manageable, given what else you do. Now, bearing in mind, the goal is to become known as the best expert, for me, best expert in content and SEO in Norway. And I only spend an hour a week.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy, right?
For sure.
Now follow that up with the fact that we're able to generate over 2 million NOK in business, potentially. Right? First I did it myself, now we're at a team. You think, okay, I spend an hour a week, I could potentially be known as an expert in my field, and be able to generate a lot of money from it. Like it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's a good return on investment.
Absolutely. And then here's the other thing too. Gen Z have mastered TikTok.
Yeah.
They've mastered YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. They haven't cracked LinkedIn yet. It's only a matter of time. You're already seeing it. There's some young people on LinkedIn who quickly realized the way to reach a massive audience is to post a lot, use carousels. You probably the same names come up over and over again. And you're thinking, wow, okay, these guys obviously have played around with different tools. They know this works. Let's just double down on it. But it's still such a huge opportunity that most people don't take advantage of.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, look in your own feed and see how little you see from the people you are connected with.
Right.
And then you can easily realize then that must mean most people aren't posting anything, since LinkedIn are filling your feed with other stuff.
Yeah. It's I think the numbers I last read were like less than 1% of people on LinkedIn post content.
Yeah.
Right. 800 million users. And you'll know quickly who the regular posters are, right? Every day you log in, there's a new post. But here's a question like I like asking, because it shows the opportunity. Right. Let me ask you this question first. what's your best skill set in digital marketing?
Probably Google Ads.
Okay. Who's the best person on LinkedIn who writes about Google Ads?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Right. You can't think of anyone.
Yeah. I know like some people who are good, but post very infrequent.
Right.
And then I am aware of some people who aren't that experienced, but post a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing really comes to mind as the number one guy or girl for this.
So you could be that number one.
Yep.
Right. It's yours for the taking.
Yeah. Well, I'm too busy with the podcasts. So, yeah.
True.
Yeah. I tried a few times with LinkedIn, but I have struggled with... I'm probably the same problem we maybe have with the podcast, that me and Eivind enjoys like all fields, parts of digital marketing. So we talk about all of them.
Yeah.
On like with the good sides of that, there's a lot of content, a lot of possibilities, but also it sometimes lacks a bit of focus.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something I think I've struggled with when doing LinkedIn, and then again being consistent. We are very good at batching these episodes. Some people might have noticed when they listen to the episodes, aren't always that time relevant because they might be like 5 or 6 weeks since recording, but yeah, I haven't really gotten into that process with LinkedIn, but I still have notifications on my phone from the last time I tried. So every Tuesday at 9:50, I get a reminder to post something on LinkedIn in 10 minutes.
Wow,
so,
you're giving yourself 10 minutes to think of something amazing.
Yeah. So that's probably not setting myself up for success, but at least every Tuesday when I get that notification, I kind of get like a small pain in my heart, thinking I was going to stick to this.
Yeah, you're letting yourself down.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. But it's interesting what you said then about the diverse topics that you talk about. Because when I look back at that first year of doing this LinkedIn program, my topics were all over the place. I got that aha moment when I did a 5-day splurge of LinkedIn posts. I talked about link building, and I set myself up where on Monday I said for the next 4 days I'll be posting tips on link building. And in that week, I think that week alone I had 100,000 views from those 5 posts.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of people connecting me focused on link building. How do I know? Because they'd pitch me straight away and say, would you like link building services?
Yeah.
But also, the following Monday, I think I shared something on like email marketing or the LinkedIn algorithm or something. Completely different topic. And I noticed my engagement was a lot less. Like the previous week, it was building every day. It was almost like, and I'm not saying this at all, this was happening, but it was almost like the link building community were like, oh, check out this guy, he's sharing tips tomorrow. You could feel it every day. It was getting bigger and bigger. And then I posted something different on the Monday and engagement just dropped completely. And I thought, okay, if I keep changing topics, I'm losing my audience as quickly as I'm building it.
Yeah.
And that's something I changed this time. So in October to December, we posted 10 times. And I was very specific on B2B content and SEO. I haven't gone away from that at all. And my posts are now averaging 10 times higher than what they used to. And I think there's something in that. Yeah,
for sure. I agree 100%. And I think if the goal is like to build a following, become as big as possible, that's definitely something to keep in mind and prioritize if you're doing that. And I like to say my goal is just to have fun with it and learn. So that's how I justify for myself our approach.
For sure. So yeah, and it's almost like, imagine someone says, who do you recommend for, Google Ads? And you recommend this guy here. And you say, oh, you're the expert on Google Ads. And he starts talking about email marketing.
Yeah.
And you're like, hang on a minute.
Yeah, I definitely get it. When you say it like that, it becomes so obvious.
Clear. Yeah. So, okay, so right now we've done the 5 steps. Have a goal, find your X and figure out what you're good at. Connect with people that buy from you. Contribute and engage to their content and then publish your own content. Now, you won't after you get to that stage after the first day, start seeing a massive increase in inbound requests. Right?
Yeah.
It's not how it works. But you've created a process now where every time you publish content, your buyers are more likely to see it because you were connected with them. You're commenting and engaging with their content and getting on their radar. And then you rinse and repeat steps 3, 4, and 5. Every week you find new people to connect with that fit your ideal customer. You contribute to their content and you post your new content. And it just creates this nice cycle of always connecting with the right buyers, engaging with their content and publishing your own. And as I said earlier, if you spend 80% of your time commenting, especially on your buyers' content, it helps your posts perform better too. So this cycle just is, again, self-serving. You're active, you're engaged, and your content will perform better.
Yeah, that's really great advice, and I think it's one of those things when you're listening to it might seem obvious,
right?
But it definitely isn't when you are working on it. And using myself as an example, like I nod my head on everything you say here, but I don't follow any of those 5 steps. So, and I think that goes for a lot of other people as well. And I think one of the key things to take away from your process that you have developed through those different experiments is also the focus on adding value and doing it for potential clients and talking about your subject. Because I see a lot of people who generate massive engagement on LinkedIn, but it's on, for example, more personal stuff.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that doesn't belong on LinkedIn, but it's not really relevant to what you are selling. Yeah. So I think that goes back to your goal again as well.
Yes.
Is the goal for me to become the most famous as me, or is it to become known as some kind of expert in a specific area? Yeah,
for sure. And I honestly, if someone says to me, my goal is to have fun on LinkedIn, that's great. Right. So, but the strategy to achieve that is going to be very different from the one that is to generate business from the platform. Right. Like if you want to have fun and you want to go viral, you don't care about sales or revenue, post pictures of your kid, post cat gifs, you name it, they'll do well.
Yeah.
And you'll have a lot of fun doing it.
But you won't have a lot of inbound leads.
Unlikely.
Maybe. Yeah.
Unlikely.
So then I have to ask you, how many outbound requests do you send on LinkedIn, message people saying, do you want to buy SEO services from me? I think I know the answer to this, but at least a lot of people chat me up on LinkedIn that way.
Right.
So since I have a LinkedIn expert here, I want to hear your opinion on that.
The irony being is that I want to be known as a content and SEO expert, and now you're referring to me as a LinkedIn expert. It's funny. 0.
Yeah.
Right. They're so poorly done when I see them as well. Right. No thought. I mean, I'm talking about SEO and content week in, week out, and I'm getting pitched. Would you like to hire me as a writer for all your content? Would you like link building services? It's so poorly done.
Yeah.
I am not a fan of automation and things like that when it comes to using LinkedIn to just spam as many contacts within your ICP.
Yeah, I agree.
I've done this manually through persistence, consistency, and it's really paying off. But I can't ever imagine pitching someone, and in all honesty, there's no need to. Right now I'm probably getting between 5 and 8 new requests every week.
Yeah.
From real qualified buyers. I just need to find time to meet with them. If I send outbound on top of that, it's going to put myself into more trouble. But yeah, it's 2 comments on that is, 1 is no, I don't send them, but 2, when I do see them as well, they're so poor. And I just think there's probably a better way. I'm sure if I laid it on top and it was done well, I'm sure it could work. I'm sure about that. But right now, there's no need, and I haven't put much thought into it.
Yeah, because I would imagine I see several of the same people liking or commenting on your content and reaching out to them probably could work.
For sure.
But it's also the chance of them being in a buying mode at that time is quite poor, and then just instead waiting for the requests to come inbound instead.
Yeah. We had a workshop with the content team a few days ago, and we talked about something which is we need the right person to see the right content with the right problem.
Yeah.
Right? And we can't control the timing, right? Like that's going to be different depending on each company. But if I can connect with the right person each week or every day, 5 to 10 people, whatever that number is, and I'm solving their problem through putting out the same content, helping companies, B2B SaaS companies grow organic traffic through content and SEO, week in, week out, eventually the timing will just click.
Yeah.
Right? So I may not be reaching them this week or next week, but if they're in my feed, if they're connected with me, and my content now is fortunately getting spread quite a lot, eventually they're going to see it and they'll be thinking of me before they go to Google and search for SEO or content agency, whatever that might be.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, really like one of the main goals of an activity like this is to optimize for like the biggest search engine in the world, and that's being in someone's brain when they are nice. When they are thinking about buying from your category.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah. There's one other thing I wanted to share too. It goes back to the posting the content. And here's something that I've not done yet, but I am encouraging now when I'm getting into conversations with companies about this. And that is my process and how I produce content works for me, but it may not work for everyone.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I get very fixated. It's a problem I have on if it works well, I just double down on it, right? So every single post you read of mine lately will look almost the same. If you didn't read the content, you'd think I'm just posting the same thing over and over again. But I think a lot of people should be very early on when they start with this, testing to see what works for them. Not just in terms of which day to post or definitely not topic. If you know your X, you stick with that. But things like images, short, long. Things like length, short, images, yes or no images. Length, short, long. Hashtags, I don't use any anymore. And I think that's what, as well, just a side note, the bigger your audience grows and the more content you put out and the more it spreads, you'll see yourself just cutting down the number of tactics that you start off in the beginning, 50 hashtags to just one, to then maybe none. Formatting, things like this, and front loading that at the beginning, right? When you start, your audience may not be so big, right? So it's great to test them to see what gains traction so that when you start developing an audience, growing it, building it, that you have your voice and your style already ready, right? I think a lot of people, when they, and the first 20 posts especially, if you do that over the course of 3 or 4 months, it's going to be a bit difficult to follow you, right? Because it's spread out, you're growing a following. And I think that's one of the things that I would still recommend now to new companies is the first 20 posts, post twice a day in the beginning. Post every day for the first 7 days. See what sticks, because ultimately, I think even though I say I'm fixated on one style, it's the audience that decides, right? Because if you see a style that does well, you'll want to lean into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Right? And the only way to do that is to just test things in the beginning.
Yeah. I think that's like one thing you could, or at least like I learned from researching people on TikTok, is seeing that they really like lean into one type of style or one type of content after a while. So you see like their first videos, either they like get lucky with something that goes viral very early on and then just do that. Or you see that they are constantly like looking for the next thing, doing some experiments here and there. But then they are like using all the stuff they know works most of the time. So maybe like 80% of their content is content they almost know is going to work.
Right.
And then 20% is, trying a new style, doing something different. Yeah. And if that works, let's double down on that and continue doing that stuff as well.
Yeah. And I think that's also, there's a tipping point, I believe, too, where you stop creating content for your audience and you start creating content for the algorithms.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I use a carousel, it's going to do better than if I don't. And if you're still generating business from that, great, go for it. But it's a question you have to ask yourself and feel like, am I doing this to generate business and to create content on LinkedIn platform? Am I doing it just to game the algorithm?
Yeah.
And it's probably it's a bit similar with the TikTok example you shared.
Yeah.
They know what's getting pushed by the algorithm, so they lean into that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very important point here towards the end is having your goal in mind. Is it like maximizing the amount of views at any cost, or is it also that it's going to generate some kind of business? Because those two doesn't necessarily go together.
Right.
You could get a lot of views, as you said, posting cat pictures, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you will get a lot of inbound requests.
Right. Right.
All right. So closing in, we have been talking about LinkedIn for almost an hour. So that's very cool. But for people who are interested in this, what type of businesses or employees do you think like will be a good fit for doing this kind of experiments?
I definitely think service-based businesses, agencies, consultants. It's off topic, but I want to mention it just slightly here, which is something I've been toying with lately, is the idea of demand gen. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's very difficult to create demand for a product, but I think you can create demand for an agency and a service-based business.
Yeah.
Right? Like think about this group, there's 10 of us, all publishing on LinkedIn every week, hitting 1 million views in 10 weeks. The demand for companies who know of INEVO and want to hire INEVO has increased rapidly than before that. Had we been selling accounting software, I'm not sure it'd have the same effect.
Yeah.
In terms of demand and creating demand for that category. So I definitely think agencies, consultants, and service-based businesses will do very well from programs like this.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of programs like this, right before we went on, you talked about a project you want to start running again.
Right. So we started working. I think this this project came up, I'd probably say in April last year. The idea is someone had seen me posting on LinkedIn. I said, hey, can we do the same for our business? And it started getting off the ground and it didn't. And there's a couple of reasons why. Language was one, and two, commitment was another. But now we've got to the point where we're starting to, with this process being refined, we've done it at a group level, not just an individual level. We've just recently started working with a company, again, a service-based business, and they are committed. English, which is great. I can be able to follow and make improvements and suggestions on how to improve their content. But right now, this is where I think we can sort of expand on this program, right? I know it worked for me. I know it works at a group level and a company level. Demand for INEVO was high. Inbounds are coming in. Now I want to roll this out to a few more companies. Not a lot, maybe 1 or 2 companies max. But I think this process would work extremely well, and I want to work with companies to help them build their LinkedIn presence, generate inbounds, and help them grow their business the same way that I've done.
Yeah. So if people are interested in learning more about that, where do they go?
So go to inevo.com/LinkedIn. There'll be a form, fill it out, and then we'll reach out to you and connect and talk about, how you use LinkedIn today, how you want to use it in the future in order to grow your business.
That sounds great. Anything else you want to add at the end?
I think I will leave just one tip, and it's not my tip. It's a guy called Justin Welsh. He's the top creator on LinkedIn.
Yeah, okay? I see him a lot.
Right. Great guy. A few months back, I asked him a question when he posted on LinkedIn talking about his journey, and he said, I'll be available for comments, questions, ask away. And my question was, if someone has been active on LinkedIn for 6 to 8 months and they haven't seen the traction they were expecting, what can they do about it? Now, before I tell you what his answer was, what do you think his answer was?
Probably something about reevaluating the content. Is it a good fit for your potential buyers? Or something about connections? Because I think that's a mistake a lot of people make as well. They aren't expanding their network with potential.
The right kind of people.
Yeah, so you're just showing your mom and colleagues what you're doing.
Right. I asked this question last week to the group, And they came back with, change the day you post was one response, or connections was another, or leave more comments. His response was, become a better writer.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's the writing that gets people to click and take action, read more, and then buy from you. And I think that's also something that I'm able to do and help companies. I've been writing for 10, 12 years. I've created over 500 blog posts. I've now created over 120 LinkedIn posts. My experience in helping people write better content on LinkedIn is, I think, a way that is makes us a little bit unique in that sense. But if you don't come to me and work with me, if you want one tip, it's become a better writer.
Yeah. Okay, that's some great words to finish off this talk. If people are interested, it's worth connecting with Steven on LinkedIn. I will leave a link to his profile in the description of this podcast, and of course also link to the LinkedIn program where people can apply if they are interested, fill out the form. And thank you for coming. Hopefully it won't be 4 years till we have you back, but this has been great.
Thank you. Maybe the next time will be a different topic again.
Maybe.
Tusen takk for at du hørte på dagens episode. Vi håper du har lært noe nyttig. Hvis du lærte noe, så hadde vi satt utrolig stor pris på om du kunne gå inn på iTunes og gi oss en anmeldelse. Det vil hjelpe oss veldig mye med å nå ut til flere som deg. Du kan abonnere på podcasten i Spotify og i iTunes. Du kan også melde deg på for å få en varsling for hver nye episode på markedsføringspodden.no. Har du et spørsmål eller et tema du vil ta opp på podcasten, så kan du sende det inn til oss på markedsføringspodden.no. Ha en fin dag.